Welcome to the first turn. I'm Hyena,
I'm Llama.
and today we're talking about kind of a light week of Warhammer stuff. Um, kind of a little bit of a lull with some of the stuff we've been seeing recently paying off and coming up for pre-order. A lot of like community articles and lore bits and like, hey, here's how the studio and is painting things. Like it's a lot of that kind of stuff, which
Yeah.
I appreciate that they try to keep things rolling every day, but a lot of it is filler this week for sure.
Yep.
We've got basically Kill Team is coming to fruition. A lot of Kill Team stuff's coming out. Night Lords and the Sisters and the Catan Shard of the Nightbringer. That kind of stuff. Some solo released kits from Kill Team that are coming out this week or next week. I saw the Stealth Suit Warband was coming out.
Really?
Which was obviously previously in that box set. So that's going to be here. Rhodas, Stealth, Suits, and then the Wolf Scouts also coming out on their own.
Well, now they're deciding that the rules for the like Catan, how to fight something like the Catan Shard of the Nightbringer for Kill Team, like those came out during the week. And now I will admit I don't play Kill Team. I don't know that much about the rules. There are some things where if you're familiar with anything Warhammer, some of the stats are understandable. But I was reading the rules and it's a very different game. But like,
yeah, big time.
It looks like they wrote the rules for him in particular, the Catan Shard, to basically be unkillable. Like you should not expect to your goal usually is try to escape the fight. And you can do enough damage to like technically get his health pool to 0 or whatever for a turn, but he just automatically like comes back with a whatever. And he absolutely murders anything. And so they make him feel bigger than the game, which probably makes sense. But it still seems like it's achievable, it's winnable. But it might point towards them bringing other big single-piece models for factions up to date.
We were
team as the vehicle.
Yeah. We were analyzing some of those teaser photos and looking at book art and just design elements of old chaos like demon engines and trying to see if like maybe it is Perturabo that they're hinting at, but I think our consensus as a community, and I mean definitely the two of us, is that no, Perturabo was not teased. He wasn't shown bits of him in any of these teasers. It was mostly like new Warpsmith, new Hellbrute, new Defiler, maybe a new type of demon engine of some kind. Because a lot of the design elements look very similar to ones we already have, right? Like they had all those like demon smoke pipes and stuff like that are all like those are already on the Defiler kit, pretty much exactly. The hammer that's that they teased off is like that's probably either like a Warpsmith hammer or like the hammer that on the end of a hand of a Hellbrute, something like that. It's not like the well-known like named hammer of Perturabo.
It's not Forge Breaker. No.
Yeah, sorry, it's just not that one. There's a shoulder pad with hazard stripes on it. It's like chances are that's probably not Perturabo. It's a Warpsmith. It's a what were those big robots called that like guarded Perturabo?
Oh, yeah. His automata, but I don't remember what exactly the name was.
They were like custom automata from AdMech that or the Cult Mechanicus, whatever they called him in 30K, that he had like customized to make his own bodyguards. Basically, they were big like shields with hammers, right? But they still had very similar design elements to the Iron Hand, the Iron Warriors, where they had the hazard stripes and the shoulder pads and the beaten silver like steel armor, stuff like that. I mean, I could see any of that stuff have basically has been teased.
Yeah. He's
so there was a fleshy. There was a fleshy hand that looked like one from a mutilator. Could even be that,
We've had rumors for a little bit that, so it's funny is there were 2 new Obliterator models that came out a long time ago, but they were only available in like a box set and they didn't make multi-part, like they didn't have options. They were just those 2. And it was the only way you could get them for a while. I don't know if they ever released them on their own or not. It was same with like the Greater Possessed. They didn't ever for a while.
Yeah. Well, they actually even scrapped the Greater Possessed. They're just now that war scroll went or that data sheet went away, and they're just possessed models.
So
like, hey, use these two as just possessed.
Yeah. And so I heard a rumor that a new obliterator / mutilator kit was coming. And they're just choosing perhaps to do it alongside the Iron Warriors thing. Because again, a lot of these kits will be available to all Chaos Space Marines. They just are theming it around the Iron Warriors. And then, but the ones you were referring to were his Iron Circle, his Tyranthicos or some name like that. But they were Damatar Ferrum class automata that normally are seen with the Mechanicum, but he designed these ones himself because he didn't trust the Mechanicum to do it. And so those were super cool. I could even see if Proto-Rabo made a return, they would have some like demonic engine version of those back, which would be
I think that'd be super cool. Yeah.
But
kind of show like he's kept at it, you know?
Yeah, he's always doing systems checks, right? And so that could be, but yeah, I still think from the teaser we've seen, none of that was him. But to what we were saying about the Catan chart, it could be that something like a new Hellbrute kit that's multi-part with lots of options, similar to the Redemptor Dreadnoughts, would come out, and Kill Team could be the excuse to drop it outside of a regular release schedule kind of thing. So could be. It's super exciting. Like I don't give two whatever's about Iron Warriors really, but I don't know. All of this is pretty cool.
I mean, I could see it like there's so many potential like dire foes that they could, you know, kind of update through Kill Team. I mean, anything for Tyranids, they could drop a new Tyranid monster as like an enemy. I think that'd be super cool. New like big beast demons, you know, like a Mutalith Vortex beast update. I mean, like that would be a cool like
that needs one, yeah.
You know, like a corn demon engine or the Defiler.
What
or,
about
like
what
said,
about
like
what about an
Redemptor size Hellbrute?
An Orc Squigoth?
Sure, like absolutely, any of that kind of stuff I think would be super cool to see. Kill Team get some love by being a like vehicle for getting those kinds of things updated or like new stuff added.
You just said something awesome. As far as Tyranids, we've heard rumors that the Red Terror has a model coming. That might even be a
and
way.
You know, maybe make him bigger than a Ravener. You know what I mean? Like maybe make him a Ravener, but he's like in between a Ravener and a
Trigon.
A Trigon, yeah, like a Trigon, or what's the other one? I was going to say the one that bursts out.
That's the Trigon. Yeah, it bursts out of the ground.
Yeah, it's the same.
The Moloch. Yeah, the Moloch.
Moloch. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Is maybe not like an HQ version of it, but like just another big beastie for it.
I could see it like the new Raveners. I think are on 40s or 50s maybe, and then the the Trigon's on a great big oval. But if you go and did like a 60 or an 80, and you made a Red Terror that's a little bit bigger, because it does describe he swallows people whole, and so you make a Kill Team scenario where every turn he disappears and comes back and you have to deal with it. Like that could be kind of neat. I don't know if that's how the game works, but yeah.
But any of that is I think is on the table for getting up to it. Like we said, the fact they're setting this kind of precedent means that like it's random now. Like you don't have to wait for a book to get an update. You can get things dropped in like this, and I think we're all the better for it. Like, well, and there's one thing to be said about like consistency and like expected like schedules and things like that, but like sometimes you got to wait a long time to get anything for your army, and injecting a little bit in the middle, you know, I think the potential of it definitely exciting and keeps you on your toes.
Well, and I see the fallacy emerge in discussions time after time where people will think that the order that armies got releases in the previous or current edition is how it'll happen. Like, well, last time they did Orcs, then Tau, then Drukhari, so this time they'll do, and now Orcs must be due. It's like, well, that not only does that never the case, but what you just said hits on something. You might be waiting a little bit. If you just got an update, yeah, you might be waiting 2 years before you see anything major again. This is a really neat way. Here's just a model, or here's just one unit. Maybe we'll use Kill Team to bring it to you, or in the case of Age of Sigmar, I guess they'll use Spearhead, or they can't use Warcry anymore apparently. But here's a way to give you something new in the meantime. Gives you something fun new to do, a new hobby project, because it's such a small bite to just release one hero or one unit, and gives you something new. Like whatever those, whenever the twin Tau suits that are supposed to come out, whenever the Red Terror is supposed to come out, whenever any of these rumored new things are going to come out, you don't think those are immediately not going to be a cool new way to build a list in 40K? Like, and then a new hobby project, and then I don't know.
Yeah, it injects some excitement, injects some like inspiration, right? And it gets people started in a new army because a cool new thing comes out. Happens all the time. You don't have to wait for an army book. You have multiple times to start an army. You know, kind of pushes you over the edge of like, I've always wanted to, but I don't know. I was waiting for the book, and that's like, oh, the book's not out yet, but there's this cool thing. I might start now actually and get a head start on it.
Well, and waiting for the book isn't even necessary now, because every army gets touched in terms of their rules and their points cost all through an edition, and then the editions are relatively short. So I don't know if there's really that now's the perfect time to get into Insert Army, unless it's like one that's got a ton of old models, but they've sort of been updating that.
Yeah, it's all psychology though. Like you're right. There is no perfect time to start, but it's like you get something new. It's like, oh well, now I have to. You know, yeah. I don't know. You could have done it at any point, but it's like this is the thing that.
Like if I don't get in when this new stuff comes out, I'll never do it. Or I'll never be able to. And it's I wish I have the new Maggotkin of Nurgle book, but that was the same thing. I was sitting there looking in my local store, and they had all of the new models, like, and just heaps of them, like just huge inventory of the brand new stuff. I ended up walking away with none of them actually right off the bat, because I wanted to just wait a little bit, because that impulse buy is strong. But you know, it makes me wonder if something we had talked about a few weeks ago is being hinted at here. So the fact that they're willing to drop in random stuff for random factions in random ways throughout the year, and they're showing off all this artwork and lore about the history of these factions in these games, I wonder if they're going to move a little bit away from such a rigid release schedule based on print. You know, if maybe,
I mean, I definitely hope so. Like that is hopeful to me.
Yeah, because like having just got the new Battle Tome of Nurgle, again, I was like, great, I spent $60 to unlock it in my app. And that's what I've done since it's played with the app. That's not to say I don't flip through it. Like they shot some really cool pictures, by the way, for the Battle Tome. It was lovely visually. Lots of neat lore stuff. But again, it's just not needed when I'm thinking about list building. I just go to the app. Or when I do rules preference.
I mean, I regret not being able to see any of it because I haven't gotten the book, and so it's like it's all locked now. It's like I hate this, you know. Like, it's not going to make me go and spend the money to buy the book, but like I'm annoyed. It's like this is new stuff. I want to see. I want to compare it. I want to see what it does. Like I have to go find other ways to get information about it. I got to go back to like the preview videos and find screenshots and shit. You know, like I shouldn't. You know, it shouldn't be that like.
It's like
we've said, let me go buy a digital code for $10 and unlock some of the rules or something. If anything, I would stomach that, you know?
Yeah. And it almost makes you tempted to go back to the old days of the internet where it's like, well, I better go find a torrent because I don't want to spend the money on that thing. Remember those days? One thing I will say, not to drift into too much Maggotkin of Nurgle talk, they're already kind of old news. But one thing I misread early on, or didn't read early on, was I didn't realize that these guys, the Cankerborn, which are the animated Earth demons. I didn't realize that they are a hero choice in the Maggotkin of Nurgle book, and they're unique. So they're
that's really strange.
Famous.
I think that's kind of the first time we've kind of had that. I mean, maybe if you look at the Soulblight Grave Lords, the two like ogre bodyguards. Or Radiger, they were kind of like ogre zombies. I think they might have been non-reinforceable, unique, but they weren't like a hero choice, and they definitely weren't as durable. They weren't as hard hitting as these Cankerborn are. But I think maybe they were similar because they really don't want people, you know, cutting up boxes just to get more of these units,
right?
Because I wonder if like the plan is like not to continue to have them for for long. I wonder if it's like a, hey, they've got rules now, but they'll go to Legends in a year kind of thing when the board game is cooled down a little bit. Like I wonder
I
a
wouldn't
little
be
bit
surprised
about
by that
that.
because if I'm not mistaken, I think they're on the same sprue as the Blight Templars and Molgoth the Cleaver. And none of those, Molgoth and his Templars didn't get rules in the tome.
Right.
The Cankerborn did. So I don't know if they plan to release them on their own at some point because that's really awkward if they don't.
Right.
I think they're good rules wise, by the way. When you think of them as one hero, they technically have a lot of health and a lot of attacks.
Yeah, it's a 12 wound. It's a 12 wound hero with like 6 attacks at damage 3 or something crazy. Like it's pretty good.
Well, yeah, and you can't insta delete them. So if you have a spell that removes a unit or whatever,
Yeah.
it says you just lose one of the models. So and then they do their little thing with their like Mire Kelpies and whatnot. But I was just a little surprised at they're actually quite good. They just you don't really build a list around them, but it's a cheap stand-in hero, I suppose. But yeah, they can unlock their own regiment, which that's a neat way to handle it. People aren't required to buy a bunch of boxes of quests to get them. But again, I wonder if like next edition, you're right, if they'll just all of a sudden Legends them, or they'll make a stand-in that they can be if you have them.
Right.
Either
Yeah,
way,
we'll see. But yeah, I'm pleased with that.
I think the Army's very good points wise. Like,
yeah,
very strong.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about that a little bit. Is one of the big things with that army was that rules changed a little bit. New units were released to replace existing ones that kind of had a different stat block for their role, that kind of thing. And one of the biggest fears was Blight Templars getting, or not Blight Templars, the Blight Kings getting shifted so much in terms of stats that people immediately when they had that had this kind of knee-jerk reaction about how much less durable they were, and they've lost some health, and they're so much worse than they used to be, and the fear was that they were going to keep their same point cost and just be worse. And It's like, I understand that fear, right? Where it's like, oh man, lost health, they lost durability, they lost utility, whatever. If they're still 220 points like they were before, it's like they're not worth it. But we didn't have a complete picture. We didn't know they were only going to be 130 points for 5 of them, which is a very, very aggressive point cost. Now you can basically get 10 of them for almost the same cost as you can get 5 of them before. And it's you lose some durability in terms of just raw saves. I mean, it's really easy to get a 5-up ward, which actually could end up even being better than having a 3-up save, because like at the worst, if an enemy has and hypothetically, right, if an enemy's attacking you with a weapon that has a -2 rend and you had a 3-up save before, you would get a 5-up save and that was all you got, right? Now the -2 rend removes your 5-up save, but then you have a 5-up ward against the points of damage. And so it's like, at the worst case, it's a wash, right? It's kind of the same. But when it comes to weapons that are like even more rend than that, you're better off, And then with being at each point of wound you have being so many fewer points, you're losing less points when you do take a point of damage. Like, I don't know, it's different, but I think it's still very, very good. I don't think they're auto include. You don't put them in every list, but I think you can very easily build a module around them to have them perform a very, very a vital role in the game and build around them. Which I think is where most units. I think it's where most units want to be, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and so one thing is they're still kind of difficult to chew through. Yes, they're not 3-up armor save with whichever ward they enjoyed before, depending on the version of the game. Now, yes, they have a worse save. They have 3 health instead of 5. But instead of 220 points or whatever their last version was, they're 130, and they still have the same damage output is the thing. They still hit the same because they have 4 swings apiece. And I think they can have a champion, musician, standard bearer. But
yeah, I think you're right.
Also, they they have more special rules now. And while it's very focused on like wizards and priests, Magic doesn't take over the game like it used to. I think they've got this sweet spot in AOS where it's like everyone has magic or priests, but they don't do everything unless you specifically have Nagash or Teclis, right? And so they're useful in most games. What you don't like to see is when a unit has a special rule where like 2/3 of the games you play, if say you go to a tournament, they don't do anything. It never comes up. But this, it's like having better output against wizards and priests, having ways to punish wizards and priests, that will never not be useful. So, and at 130 points, that's priced so aggressively. If you still want the high armor save guys who don't do much but can tank, then now you can take rot swords in that same points range. They're 200 points, and you can throw those out there.
Yeah, for 40 wounds. No.
Yeah.
10 guys, 20 wounds, 10 guys, 2 wounds apiece.
Yep.
That's still just as efficient as like any other, heavily armored infantry in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fine. And then you also get a ward,
I think your points cost was right. People thought that they're comparing the current rot swords to the old Blight Kings, which I think is a mistake. They do different things. What people were trying to say is, oh, they might be undercosted at 200. It's like, well, no, because Slaves to Darkness Warriors are 180 or whatever.
Right.
And if
they don't have a ward. So it's the same save, same damage output, no ward. They should be more expensive than those guys.
And the difference, Slaves to Darkness Chaos Warriors have one better move and get extra fighty when they're on an objective or when they're trying to get an objective. These guys move a little slower, but they are tougher because of the ward. And then they benefit.
The other issue,
they benefit from
the other issue that we compare. Yeah, the other issue we compare them to is that Maggotkin actually have a decent army rule.
so there's
the Slaves to Darkness do not. Yeah.
The Slaves to Darkness Warriors are a little faster and technically have more output, but they don't get supported by much because the Slaves to Darkness army just doesn't have army rules, really. The Maggotkin Nurgle Rot Swords move a little slower, don't fight as well, but they're tankier and have a great support system. Like the Maggotkin of Nurgle rules are really good. So, but I think for the points cost, therefore, they're kind of fair. But yeah, everything in the army so far, points-wise, seems very efficient, with the exception of Festus the Leech Lord, who may be too expensive, or the Maggoth Lords are too cheap. I can't decide, but
maybe a little bit, maybe a bit of both. Meet them in the middle, But you're right. Like, for it being a new kind of centerpiece named character guy, like they definitely pointed him too high, and they do this quite often, where like a new named character will come out and they'll point him somewhere, and it's just like you overshot that. Like, you can only bring one of these guys because they're unique. Why does he cost so many points? It's not like people are going to spam them if he's cheaper, right? Because you can't. I mean, they did that with pretty much every Stormcast, just melee named character. They were all way too expensive, like Yndrasta and Bastion. Like those characters were all in that kind of 8 wound range. They were all like 300 points. It's like, what are you doing here? Like, there are 12 wound monsters in the game right now for like 180. There's nothing about this character at 8 wounds that makes them 300 point worthy. Some of them are still too expensive for that.
And I wonder if the idea was, I wonder if the idea was, it was like, I noticed they like to include a number of heroes that you can build a list around, or build at least a regiment around. And so they those tend to be high cost, like your god level characters in the game, right? Alariel and Archeon and stuff like that. But like this, it was like Maggotkin was kind of that, or the Glotkin was kind of that. He's your most expensive, like, single guy, but he is really good for his points. He has so much health and does so much damage and buffs and debuffs so much that, like, it feels worth it. Festus really has a niche role. And so if you wanted to build a list around him, you have to go with like a control score themed list. And then he's 14 health, and they really overshot what he can do at any given time. So he's either going to have the biggest control score in the game, depending on how the like turn 2 and 3 goes, or his special rules will just simply never come into play. And so it's like you pay 320 for a guy who's like okay at fighting and okay at magic. Well, the Maggoth Lords give you that for like 260 or 270. So you can spend 50 to 70 points less to get a guy who's faster, who probably fights better, who one of which can also cast spells, and then like doesn't take up as much space on the board. I don't know. I just think he was the only one that they maybe missed in the book, but that's really not like a knock on the book. Because everything about it seems like a nice sweet spot and is playable. The number of lists I've seen, huge variety. I think Rodigus is becoming is fastly being determined as an auto include. He's 410 points, but he's strictly better than the Scourge of Gyron version. So
yeah, it's wild because the Scourge of Gyron version was super good. Like when it came out, it was like, whoa, this is a straight upgrade to Rodigus. He is so good in every single phase of the game. He does damage to the enemies.
Yeah.
The new one might be even better.
Well, and they're a little different, and you can still play the Scourge of Gyron one as far as I know. So you now have two really good Rodigus. So I think Rodigus is going to show up. One version of them will show up in every list. Maybe Belga the Sistwitch, that new priest lady who's on the worm out of the quest box. They did sell her on her own with Gelgus and the Foulhoof guy in a separate box. So you can get her forever. She is super good for her points and as a priest. And so that's one that might make it. But otherwise, the army is just filled with so many options and so many modules you can play. I think it's one of the better updates we've seen. So, yeah.
I'm glad they're going that direction and actually making some meaningful changes and improvements instead of just being index plus or index minus a lot of cases.
Well, and even if we don't see it at first, once we had the whole picture, it was like, oh, Blight King's at 130. Well, now that's really good, even though they did change. Do you think there's something in, I don't know, whatever army we think is going to be, well, they showed us what's going to be next, right? We have the Ossiarch Bone Reapers coming with a lot of models. What do you think they might do to shift the role of an existing unit, or rules-wise, what they might dramatically change? Because we've seen these new battle tomes are all way different than the indexes compared to the previous books. So
I don't know if much is going to happen with them, with Ossiarchs. They are adding a new mechanic back to them, which is this relentless discipline. They had that in their first incarnation. What it was the first time around was basically a replacement for command points. And it was contentious, right? It was a mixed bag. So while they had some unique command abilities, essentially, because they had relentless discipline points, and that's the only way you could activate them was with those specific currency. You didn't get access to generic command abilities back then because you didn't generate command points. You generated relentless discipline points. And so it was an army that was playing a different game. It was really weird. It barely fit the theme, and so like these universal abilities would come out, and like they couldn't benefit or take advantage of any of it. And it was like super weird. But now it seems like if you think about when Cities of Sigmar got their update last time, not this time, last time, there were these like order tokens you would give out. And so like a human character could give an order to a human unit nearby. And you could choose which one. And then an elf hero could get it. You know, I think it's going to be similar to kind of that, where you've got your army role is going to be additional tactics and like command abilities that are unique to that army that they could use every turn, but then they also will get access to the generic ones as you generate CPs, you know, which, I mean, there's so little you can do with command points now that it's not that big of a deal. Like if they lost it, it wouldn't be, because all you have is all attack, all defense, redeploy and covering fire and countercharge. That's really all that there is. I mean, rally, I guess too. But like, there's not that many things. And so, giving them this in addition to those generic ones is not like, oh, it's groundbreaking. Like you get your own set of command points in addition to generic ones. It'll be fine. You know, the roster is filled out, but I don't think there's much in the way of like role shifting that they can do. I mean, there's two different weapon loadouts on the infantry, but if they, like we talked about last week, if they keep just all their weapons be the same, and there is a difference between swords and spears, their basic infantry unit is not going to change much, I don't think. This new bow unit is going to be I think probably a big damage dealer for the army, which is cool. You've got a new elite melee unit, so you don't need the infantry to do a lot.
And that was just like pure bonus. I don't think anyone saw that one coming.
I don't think we saw that coming. We did have a teaser get revealed as part of that kit. That was like a smoke grenade, which obviously looked like an Ossiarch Bone Reaper smoke grenade of some kind. That was in this kit because I guess they're shrouded. Maybe they'll have some rules for like stealth or being hard to shoot at or attack them. Very assassin-y type rules.
When I saw that rumor engine of that or whatever it was, I had assumed, yes, that's an Ossiarch Bone Reaper smoker. I thought it would just be on like a hero and they would end up getting a pity hero or something. But this ended up way cooler for them. You make a good point though. Now, if they're going to continue this trend of whatever they're wielding doesn't matter, then they won't have a role shift. But if they decide if they want to expand Ossiarchs even farther, they could make it so that hand weapon and shield versus spear and shield is a different thing. Now you create two roles.
I think even technically that unit can have double swords, and there's a few like two-handed swords in there, and none of that has mattered in a long time.
Right.
Like I think there's some different loadout options available beyond just being a like sword and shield or spear and shield option.
Okay.
I'd have to confirm that and look that up, but I'm positive there were at least some like great swords in that kit. So I forget what's that unit called even? A Mortis Guard or Mortis something. I don't remember. I have to look it up. But regardless, we've got that's their basic infantry. I don't think we're going to see anything crazy go on there. The only thing I could see changing is with their like big, beefy like elites. Maybe they'll differentiate them a little bit more. You've got the like the stalkers and the ones with the shields and halberds. It's a dual kit. I wish I remember what they were called.
The forearm guys?
Yeah, so the forearm guys make two kits. They make the stalkers, which are like great swords in those kit, or the Immortus Guard, I think that's what they're called, where they have a big shield and a halberd. So like those two units have the same body, different head, but they're very different roles. One's like a bodyguard unit, one's like a flash up infantry unit. So maybe they'll do a bigger shift with them to make them different from one another, like separate them out a little bit more. And then the other one is the Morghast. So you've got the Archai, which are like so the two flying, double like two model unit, the Morghast Archai and the Morghast Harbingers. Yep. The only real difference the two of them have is like one reflects spells and the other has 3d6 charge. It's like faster. Like that's the only real difference. Either one of them can take halberds, either one of them can take the double weapons, and they have different weapon profiles for those two different weapon options. But otherwise, those units are pretty much identical. It's just you're swapping one special role. So it's like those aren't different enough. You could definitely use some creativity there to make them different. But like looking at the roster, like beyond that, it is very much like, yeah, this unit does one thing. Everything kind of fits its own spot. There's no need to change more than that because nothing else is really overlapping with something else, So we'll see. I mean, maybe what units that some of the heroes will support will change a little bit. Like maybe there will be a hero that synergizes better with the archers. Maybe there'll be a unit that wants to be up there. I mean, we get a new guy. He'll want to be up there with the shield guys. But other than that, we've got like one fighty hero that's the Reaper. We've got a couple of foot wizards, a couple of like named guys. I don't know. It's I don't see the like. This is roster expansion as opposed to like, army shuffle. I just don't see what else we need to do.
They might change. They might just change the core of what they do instead of doing role shuffles. Because while their roster expanded, they don't have so much that they can do like Maggotkin did, where now they have 5 or 6 infantry types to switch roles.
Mhm.
But it is still great. Rumor I've seen is that the next big thing for Age of Sigmar is supposed to be the Cities of Sigmar update.
Okay.
If we consider
exciting.
if we consider Ossiarch Bone Reapers a big quote unquote release, it's a big expansion. Cities is supposed to be the next big one. So people wonder if we'll see that at Adepticon, or if Adepticon on the Age of Sigmar side will be mostly about the launch of new Spearhead things. Because there's supposed to be something big coming for Spearhead, or they're going to make it a more permanent game. We'll see. Yeah, I don't know. There's a Warhammer Day, I think, in March. Don't they usually show stuff on a Warhammer Day too?
I don't recall. I mean, I know they confirmed they're going to do the Adepticon in March preview. There's a Warhammer Open in February. Warhammer Day in March, though. I can't recall. I don't remember.
Well, a Warhammer Open, is that the one in the Netherlands?
I think so.
In February? Because the Warhammer Opens usually preview something. Maybe they won't do it in the European one. I don't know.
Yeah, so Warhammer Open, I don't know how to pronounce this. Maastricht.
Oh, yeah.
It's for April 24th, 26th.
That's in Denmark, or whatever. Yeah.
Yep. So that's a month after Adepticon. I mean, if they're ready to show it at Adepticon, I think they will. If not, it gets pushed back a month. I think that's where we land.
I've also read that the plans between now and Adepticon are going to be new stuff will be shown on Mondays.
Okay.
Not big previews.
I mean, there was a like Model Monday thing they were pushing for a long time, where they were trying to show off one new model every week, and they stopped doing that real quick. It lasted like 3 weeks, and then they stopped.
You know,
same with like the Heresy Thursdays or whatever, just kind of like petered out.
Yeah, well, and they never make an announcement that it's going to become a thing, so it's not surprising that they don't make an announcement when it ends. But I've seen how many fans cling on to it. So I don't know if you remember, for a long time in like the mid-aughts, the 2000s, the White Dwarf, the last page, or even the inside of the back cover, would always be a like teaser of something coming. And that used to be the only way we got any announcement that something new was coming.
Right.
People then assumed, even like 7 years after they stopped doing that, oh, I'm only interested in the last page of the White Dwarf, like to see what's coming. It's like they haven't done that in so long, and I don't know. So maybe the Mondays, let's show a new thing coming. Maybe that's not a thing anymore. I've seen some chatter that there's going to be stuff on Mondays, but I don't know. Cities of Sigmar sounds like it's supposed to get some pretty big stuff, though. So a lot of people keep talking about it.
Yeah, but if you think about like the list of rumors said that cities were gonna get, was like the description of it seems like it would all fit in a Spearhead, and so like I wonder if that's maybe how they're planning on doing it, because it was something like a warrior priest character on foot, another new character on foot, like a named guy on foot, and then like a wizard or something, I think it was a new like battle mage, and then like foot knights, and then like the grenadier shooting unit. Like, to me, like 2 heroes plus a melee unit plus a shooting unit, that sounds like a Spearhead to me.
Yeah.
You know, same with Skaven, who's supposed to be the enemy in like a 2-player box set kind of thing, where it's like, here's a named assassin, here's a support character, here's gutter runners and night runners, like 2 different like infantry units.
Well,
that sounds like Spearhead.
So,
you know,
speaking of pivots, I wonder, because again, we've talked and somewhat lamented that Warcry just died, and Kill Team has been an alternate way for Games Workshop to provide updates also to 40K proper, while supporting a game that on its own has become popular. Spearhead has become popular on its own, and this might be a great way for them to do a relatively large model update for an Age of Sigmar proper army, by saying, here's a new Spearhead with its own set of rules to play Spearhead and make Spearhead different, but also all of these models are brand new for your army now. So
Right.
here you go.
And I like my only gripe with Spearhead is there is literally 0 list building, which I mean, I'd say 0. You still get to choose your artifacts, you still get to choose your command trait, and I think something about your like objective of your army, your battle rule, like your win condition, I think you get to choose. But like the models and loadouts and all of that is set, right? You don't get to customize any of that. There's no points, there's no there's no list building in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
And while it's really cool that new models could come out that way, it's also like, well, it's the only way to play with these models in Spearhead now is if I buy this whole new Spearhead, right? Like the whole thing together. It's like, what if I just liked 1 unit or 2 units and I want to play them, but I don't want to buy a big Spearhead box. It's like, well, you can't play Spearhead unless you buy all of the new models and to play with that one. And so it's like you are kind of limited a bit with having to buy these big like 5 to 600 point modules of an army to go and play Spearhead with. Like some of the older ones make sense to me where it's like I own a lot of these models already. If I wanted to, play the new Nurgle one where it's like, oh, 2 beasts of Nurgle and a bunch of Nurglings and a demon, like I might own all those models already, but like, okay, well, I can just now play this Spearhead. But if it were something like, hey, it's these demons plus a brand new character, you could only get that brand new character in the Spearhead box. It's like, well, now I have to go buy a whole Spearhead box to get the one character so that I can play that Spearhead, army.
But I already owned all the other kits. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I don't want to have 4 beasts of Nurgle or whatever.
That's a good point. And while I'm certain those kits will all be released individually later, there can be some crossover duplicate purchases that are otherwise unnecessary. Or $160 to get 1 unit that you don't have. But that said, I think that's just an option they're choosing to do the kill team equivalent on the Age of Sigmar side because Warcry didn't stick. So like,
I mean, which I don't even understand why Warcry didn't stick, other than the fact that they had to make so many like bespoke war bands for that game. Like that was their decision. Like the rules themselves were fun. The game itself was fun. I think it was very good, but they made so many unique things for it that didn't cross over into the main game that I think it was too big of an investment to keep that game going. Because now they have to make, 30 new kits. Like they have to keep producing 30 kits that are just for this game, and it's not worth it to keep up with that. Then they started shoehorning every unit they could from AOS into it. And like one day, I don't know if you remember, we were going to play some we did play some Warcry, and I brought out basically from the compendiums all the different war bands that were available from Age of Sigmar. It took me like 3 model cases, like those big like army or not army painter, but like battle foam ones or the army whatever boxes, that I filled all of them up with all the potential units you could play in Warcry. And it was like, this is too much, like it was too many things. And now it's like, how do you list build? How do you actually even play this game? What rules do you unlock? Because you can mix and match all these heroes and mercenaries and extra stuff from outside of your little war bet. Like it became so bloated so quickly, and then it just kind of disappeared. I would love still to have something similar to it that replaces it, because like I said, while Spearhead is fun for a lightweight, quick way to play Age of Sigmar, it's not the kind of gritty squad-based skirmish game that Warcry filled. That Kill Team currently is.
Well, and until they
a Mordheim would be,
and until they decided that literally every unit in Age of Sigmar could have rules in Warcry, which I think was bad. I also liked the idea in Warcry that was a little different from Kill Team, was that these are like the non-proper military fights. So it was almost more akin to Necromunda in that regard. This is stuff that happens in the regular world, pillaging and thieves and spies and like I was really interested in them pursuing that and just doing war bands that were unique to the game. I didn't mind that they gave them rules in Age of Sigmar, but I didn't want it to go the other way. I didn't want proper Iron Jaws brutes to be all of a sudden playable in Warcry, and I don't know. Then it just seemed like too much.
Right.
But yeah, otherwise, I'm surprised it just was allowed to die and go away when most of these smaller games are just subsidized by the bigger ones anyway. So I don't know. There must have been some reason, but
Yeah.
as far as the
I
Monday,
mean, the community,
go
the
ahead.
community still keep it going though. You know,
They
like
do.
they're still running Warcry events at Adepticon this upcoming year. You know, like the community still keeps those games going.
They do.
And so, like, even though it's not being supported, it's not being, like, you released the last version of the rules. It's still kept and maintained and updated by the community, and they still run events, and like people still like the game and will play it. Like, just because you stop supporting doesn't mean the game has to go away, you know, by any means. 7th edition 40K, you could still go play that if you wanted to. You know, no one's stopping you. But like it does feel like we're going off into the unknown, into the Wild West when you're playing an old edition of a game, or you're playing a game that has been discontinued. I mean, I guess technically you could still go play Battlefleet Gothic if you wanted to, or Dreadfleet, you know, like any of that kind of stuff. And I don't know, it's good for the people who want to, but for a new player getting into an old game feels really, really bad. I mean, I think that's kind of what Old World ran into a little bit. Is it's like people who used to play it want it back, but like trying to draw new players into it who have to go and now buy all of these old models that maybe, you know, some of them don't look great, and they've only gone up in price since they were released 20 years ago. Now you have to go buy all these old models that don't look great for way more. You have to buy a lot of them just to get into a game that is nostalgia. That, like, maybe it's better, right? Maybe Old World is better than 8th edition fantasy when it was discontinued. But it's still very much the same game. It's still a very similar game.
It's
and
still a rank and
you
flank.
need a lot of models. You know, you need a lot of time investment, a lot of models to play that game. It's not new player friendly. You know what I mean? Like,
it isn't.
I don't know. It's a weird investment. You know, it's like it's a big commitment. It's a lot of money involved in it, and and then other projects they didn't want to continue. You know, like it's a weird choice. I don't know.
Well, and it's funny is like, so it's supposed to be the history of Age of Sigmar, just as Horus Heresy is the history of 40K, right? And so they want both to exist, and they listened to the fans and brought it back. But it's just, not only is it not from community chatter to sales, I guess, it's not only is Old World not doing spectacular, so they're literally just cutting into the profits of their other games to have it. But like you just pointed out something that I don't think a lot of people think about. It's maybe not new player friendly. Not only are rank and flank games, rules wise, I've just never thought they were as good. Way too easy to exploit that kind of system. But yeah, now you have to spend $1,000 to buy an army that might be made up entirely of old models, and then put them on crappy square bases, and assuming you can find all the models, first of all, and then and then put them on square bases, and then I don't know, and hopes that you get an update. That said, if Kill Team is this alternate, this tag along to 40K, and Spearheads become the tag along to Age of Sigmar, although I would like to, like you said, I would like to see something a little different. It sounds like there's a chance that Mordheim may be coming back because the Old World exists. And so I think people would love that.
But it's also an odd choice, because like Mordheim as a thing is more of a concept than it is a setting, right? It's kind of like Necromunda. The new version of Necromunda is so much different than the old version of Necromunda.
It is,
even to the point where they stopped fighting in the hive, you know, bowels. They're now doing it in the wastelands. They've moved it out of the Necromunda Secundus, whatever it was, that city, and they're fighting on other places in the planet. There has been like evolution in technology. There's been evolution in the gangs. They've moved forward story-wise for Necromunda, right? They could do that with Mordheim. It doesn't necessarily need to be set in the city of Mordheim. Like, they could be rules that are very, you know, reflective of the old Mordheim rules, And if you want to, you can play in the city of Mordheim, but you're not required to play with old world army models. You're not
Right.
required to play in that old world setting. You could play it, as like look at War Machine and Hordes as an example, right? Those two games were one game, but they were really just like two different rules sets that were so similar that they were compatible. Like what's that one game where you can fight everything versus everything? Shaggy versus the Imperial
Click.
Star Destroyer versus
Right.
Goku versus
It's Hero Click.
that kind of shit, right? That kind of stuff where it's
where Mary and Pippin
this is
destroy the Starship Enterprise, right? Yeah.
that which is just Super Saiyan Shaggy I think was an actual character in that. Like, it didn't make any sense. But it was just because the rule sets and the stats were just compatible between the different settings. You could just play them all together. It was no problem. You could absolutely do that with something like this kind of a game where it's like, well, it's a fantasy themed, skirmish based, warband exploration, whatever kind of game system. You can play it in Age of Sigmar setting. You can play it in the old world setting. If you player A plays in the new world and player B plays in the old world, you don't necessarily need to keep those settings separate. Those people can still fight against each other, right? On the tabletop in terms of like fighting a battle. It won't make sense necessarily narratively why a Sigmarine army is fighting against Imperial, Empire peasants and flagellants and stuff, but it could still work. Like if they came out with Mordheim rules, I think I would do that. It's like, well, it's Mordheim rules, but I'm setting it in the Mortal Realms, just to give access to like newer stuff. Like I don't have to go back and buy like old Metal Witch Hunter models and stuff like that. Like it's up to the player and then like their group and their community to decide how they want to use the rules, but you don't have to be rigid with them, especially when it's something so narrative. Like narrative play is very much up to the players to decide how they want to run things.
Right.
And like I said, having a template that is Mordheim, but like setting it anywhere else would still work. Like I said, I still think it'd be weird to release new stuff in the old setting just because the old setting is no longer being fleshed out. Mordheim specifically was a very brief period in the old world like history that after the comet crash and it was covered in Warpstone, is when that kind of takes place. There was the gold rush to go collect all that stuff and fight over it. The current setting of old world doesn't coincide with Mordheim. You know what I mean? Like
nope. No,
you would have to be set in more modern old world, which is again weird for how they brought it back.
But I could see for the namesake they would just keep it Mordheim because it would draw. Yeah. If they did new models for specifically that game and they weren't part of old world on their own, like I could see it being successful because the other. Mm-hmm. So Horus Heresy is the only one that doesn't have that. They don't have this little side set of skirmish games that cross over. And they maybe never will. In fact, I think it might be the most expensive game to play because you have to have huge armies to play the game.
Yeah. Did they ever do a Horus Heresy boarding action of any kind?
I don't know. Maybe they did.
I thought there was a rule set, but I think it might have been 40K. I think there was a format they were trying to do that was in the Zone Mortalis kind of tiles that they were selling for a long time, where it was like indoor bunker / spaceship interior combat,
but not space.
I don't remember them releasing,
right?
But not space. Yeah, but I don't remember them doing any kind of like box sets for it. Whereas like there were combat patrols and there were boarding action boxes and stuff like that for 40K, where it's like here's 2 units and a hero to do a boarding action, mission pack with. I'm pretty sure it was something like that.
And I think they forwarded some of those ideas in these upcoming book sets for the end of the edition. I think there are rules not only for Crusade, but rules for stuff like boarding action still in there. I could be mistaken. What we've also heard is that a Battlefleet Gothic game is coming back, but it won't be the version everybody remembers. It will be like in Legions Imperialis. It will just be set during the Heresy. I think that's like a safe zone for them to put some of these games, is to just, so then they only have to print Marines and Legions or whatever. Yeah. I don't know if that'll be successful or not. I guess plastic boats, it could be cool. Space boats.
Maybe they did research and they find that the people who like the Horus Heresy setting are the ones that want, basically Epic to come back. Those are the people that want Battlefleet Gothic, are the ones who like the Horus Heresy, and like modern 40K players aren't really clamoring for that. Like maybe it's a better setting for it. Maybe it's a safer setting, like you said. Maybe making units for that game that both sides can use, but then could have different rules because it's loyalist versus traitor, same models but painted differently and different rules for the same. Like maybe that makes more sense for a basically for a trial run of a new game.
Well,
but you release one box set and it's got two sides, but you could combine all of those models to be on the same army.
Well, yeah, it was like with Titanicus, which eventually became Legions Imperialis. It was like they only had to print, one box of like Warhound Titans or whatever. There's a couple different kinds now, I guess, but even then, literally everybody who plays the game can buy that one box and use it.
Right.
So I think as far as their manufacturing, it's just so much easier to pick the Heresy setting, because you're doing Legions versus or Loyalists versus Traitors, Space Marines, the equivalent of Imperial Guard, and the equivalent of Mechanicum, and you just do that, and all in plastic, super easy. And then you only have to focus on one-off specialty things. So if they did a Battlefleet Gothic set in the Heresy era, they could do Imperial cruisers and Space Marine battle barges and all that stuff for everybody, and then you just release a special ship that's like the Spirit of Vengeance and whatever, and the Phalanx, and like you could then just do one-off that are Legion specific. So that could be successful on its own, especially if you only need a few ships to play, and I don't know the rules or anything like what people remember. It was one that used centimeters instead of inches, right? But I only played Battlefleet Gothic a few times, but I remember that. I also knew when they were metal ships, the game just didn't work, because you had a metal thing this long standing on a flying stand, and it would just So plastic would be great,
but different time, different technology, maybe it'll work better. Even just executing it physically,
Well, and on that note, we've heard that one other rumor, it's like a rumor show, is that there's going to be some Necromunda heroes that are made in plastic instead of resin going forward, and they might do that with some Blood Bowl Star players too. So we're seeing an even farther reduction in the amount of stuff that the old Forge World used to do, right. And then the other one was that was moving to plastic. I was trying to remember. Anyway, I think the less that Forge World's doing, probably the better. Plastic Primarchs for 30K was rumored. Like Angron was supposed to be the last resin thing for the Primarchs. So
clearly they also had a lot of production issues with him. So maybe probably a good thing. Because that's why it took so long for that model to be released, is apparently they had wing issues with their casting mold or something. That's why it got pushed back like 8 months since we got previewed. Now it's finally available. I mean, maybe it's they're wanting to do more with resin and finding it more difficult to do what they want, but plastic design things maybe are easier to maneuver, and maybe there is a drive, a big push to design everything in plastic, because then you need to have less facilities that do multiple different materials and different casting methods. You could just do literally everything in plastic. You don't need to worry about that kind of thing.
It could also
and if they're
go ahead.
I was to say, if their production facilities are actually ramping up like they're rumored to be, you're not having to worry about overlapping production times either. Right? It's like now you could have dedicated production in different areas and get multiple different releases and projects done at the same time, because you're just making them in different places.
Yeah, and it could be, it would be an interesting, I haven't heard this, or this is just an idea. They could shift Forge World to do things like busts. or things that are more for the artist, stuff that we don't really, or the collector, we don't really have that in the Warhammer universe. We have almost entirely game pieces. And so if they wanted to keep the resin around and not just phase Forge World out entirely, I think they could even consider doing something like that, like have them make busts and scale and collectible stuff. And then they're not interrupting the production time at all. I know there's some things they still probably do in resin, but everything moving to plastic just seems production wise to be, it's easier to work with. I've seen one thing, by the way, on Warhammer Community, as far as that Mondays thing, circling back to the Mondays. They said, here at Warhammer Community, we're closing out the month of January with a juicy mix of rules, reveals, and painting challenges, including something on Monday that you won't want to miss. This is referring to the upcoming Monday, the 26th. So when everybody hears this podcast, it says, seriously.
What do we think it's going to be?
It says, seriously, it'd be terrible if you did. We've got our eye on you.
Eyes.
Eye, singular.
Okay.
We've got our eye on you. I don't know. It's also like, that could be something like rules, reveals, and painting. Well, painting challenges, we already know what those look like. Rules could be alternate ways to play, and so that could be irrelevant to most people. But like reveals,
you've got Zinch, right? Eyes motif. You've got Horus. His symbol is the eye of Horus,
which used to be the eye of Terra, and then there's also the eye of Terror.
Yeah. So I mean, we had rumors of a plastic Horus coming. You know, I don't know. It's definitely interesting. Could be something entirely different. Could be spiders. I don't know. Could be a new Gorgon who's a Cyclops. I don't know. I don't know. It's very cryptic and weird.
Yeah, it's tough to say, and it could just end up a big nothing. It could be more articles that don't do much, but
right.
So who knows? Maybe Mondays will become more of a here's something brand new day.
I mean, I like it because then you're not randomly waiting to see. Like I said, the scheduling and the consistency and stuff is still nice, even though there is potential for stuff to get released when we're not expecting it. Mm-hmm. Still being able to see a little bit every once in a while is good. Like the teaser Tuesdays are fun and all, but they're so they're all like they've almost used those teasers as a way to troll the community more than to actually show them anything useful.
They've done that,
like because we had for example, like the Corsair box has a dog warrior in it, right? But that dog warrior, people were thinking, oh, it might be a Talarian dog warrior, and maybe it'll be like a Tau auxiliary unit, some kind of like mid to close range, auxiliary unit that can kind of fill that gap of like, oh, well, your army doesn't have any melee. Maybe here's some mercenaries that can do that for you, and then they give it to Chaos. It was such a troll move, right? Yeah. Like they didn't need to do that. Like they could have. There was another character that could have. That was part of what's his name's original retinue that they chose not to include, and instead they gave a Talarian dog warrior to replace him. And it's like, that was silly. That was a little silly. But it's that kind of thing where it's like, here's this new like shoulder pad or helmet, and then it turns out that helmet is just on the base of something else. Like it's an orc stepping on a Space Marine helmet or something. It's like, oh, here's a skull with the Bale eye of what's his name, and then it's hanging on an Angron's belt. Yeah, it's that kind of thing where it's like you're trolling, like you're intentionally misleading with some of these things, and it's not like it's not a mystery to figure out. It's like you want to make people think one thing, and then you pull the rug out. It's just
and the way the rumor engine started compared to what it's like now. Now, I mean, they actively Photoshop the background and surrounding stuff out and just show a bit, and so there's so little context. And then when we get the payoff, it's like hard to even connect the dots. Sometimes, like, oh wait, that was just a thing on a guy's belt. It looked like a free floating spear or something. So, You know what? If they trolled us and they said we've got our eye on you, it'll be a plastic Sauron for Middle Earth or something. Eye of Sauron.
That would be so funny. Yeah. Yep.
Why not? They haven't done him in plastic yet, I don't think, right?
Yep. That'd be kind of exciting though. Just a plastic Sauron.
It could though. It could
But
just be.
it also would.
Go ahead.
You know, but it wouldn't make any sense because he didn't have a physical form in the setting that they're doing in the Middle Earth right now. So it wouldn't make sense to have a Sauron, other than be like a historical like diorama piece, maybe. I don't know. Just random.
You can still play in the Lord of the Rings setting, I suppose.
Yeah.
They also had stuff from way back there. I mean, they might. Who knows? But it also could be because Tzeentch, Disciples of Tzeentch, have a book coming soon, so it could just end up something like that. Lore bits from that or whatever.
Yep.
Or they're going to start teasing the rules for them because that's a thing.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the other thing they could be doing is showing us teasers of some of the rules coming out for both them and Lumineth, who are we're kind of coming out. I don't know at the same time or if it's going to be back to back.
Might be two battle tomes and 2 models. They're fine releasing both those at the same time usually. But I still expect that based on where Age of Sigmar has gone since the first 5 or 6 books, that these books will be changes, even though they're only getting 1 model each. I still expect rules-wise they're going to look different. Something happened in the design phase where this wave of battle tomes is just way more interesting.
Yeah. Which again, we expected that. It always happens every edition. They start off boring and then they change their design philosophy and then radical changes happen to the index. You know, and it makes getting a book early in the edition kind of feel weak because you didn't get anything or you know, your changes are worse versions of current changes, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and they thankfully still find ways to give those older armies new rules or something or a random model drop. But it does feel just like if you got the first Stormcast release or the Slaves to Darkness, some of those early ones, you just like right now are like, man, my rules are boring. Like compared to what some of these new ones look like. Even if they're not less powerful per se, when they're just boring and there's not variety, I don't know. It's hard to feel jazzed about them. So we'll see. But I expect Lumineth and Tzeentch to get a lot of different ways to do their stuff.
You know, they'll keep their whatever aspects for Lumineth, and they'll be very customizable and creative. And then you'll have fate points that do all kinds of crazy stuff for Tzeentch. You know, it'd be very interesting. So like mini game that you're playing in addition to the normal game that are very powerful. They'll be fine.
Because even with Diseased, while they kept that from one Maggotkin iteration to the other, it's just so much different now, and there's a lot more ways to get it, and then stuff to do with it once you have it. So they could keep same core mechanics, but just really change the way they need to achieve it, and make it more in line with what needs to happen to try to win the game. I don't know. They seem to be better about that. And they're not giving these armies minuses when they get their battle tome. It's not just a great big down shift. So, I don't know. We'll see. Could be Eye of Terror campaign stuff they start showing too, but I don't know. That might be early.
Eye of Terror, Eye on You. I don't know.
Because those
we don't have to wait very long.
Yeah, we saw the 500 World books, and we saw what the Maelstrom books look like. But we don't know when the Maelstrom ones are coming out, do we? So I don't know if they'll start jumping right into Eye of Terror or if we got to wait. I still think at Adepticon, they have to tell us that the 11th edition's coming, right? I mean, if they're going to do a late summer release, you have to talk about it then, don't you?
It's the timing, right? Like the timing has to, like, it's always about 6 months before a edition change. They announce it's going to happen. I mean, that's why Adepticon is positioned so, you know, conveniently, is because they do a lot of those big release announcements, big change announcements then in March. So we'll see. I mean, I'm excited. I'm going. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be at it. So
we'll be there. Yeah,
yep.
This will be a very different convention for me for what I'm used to. I have always, so it's funny is like when I stopped doing the big tournaments at these events, it wasn't because I didn't enjoy them. I then felt like I didn't have time to enjoy the convention. And so I would only, like you, I would only sign up for a small thing. I do a class or a little game that's just a 1-day event, and then try to enjoy the rest of the con and the city that we're in. This year, I am teaching 2 classes, which is interesting. I will be doing demonstrations at a booth and largely working at a booth if the owner of said booth is not there. So like, this will be different. I'll be on the other side of the arena.
Other side of the counter. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see, but I do plan on attending the preview event, of course. Can't miss that. That's just one of my favorite things about Adepticon to start it. Because you want to talk about a way to get people jazzed about models and painting and gaming and whatnot. It's like, how about before everything starts, have the biggest company show off a bunch of new stuff coming? Like,
right.
It's just, that's hard to beat.
Sure.
That's pretty great.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll see what happens in this upcoming week and see if anything pays off, and especially what's going to happen Monday, if that gives us an idea for what the upcoming weeks are going to look like in terms of developments.
There's so much happening for all the games this year. It's hard to predict. Like we have ideas of what's coming, but just want to see what it looks like now.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, be sure to check that out Monday. And again, speaking of working the booth, that's the Chimera booth you're gonna be at.
The Dracoya booth, yeah.
The Dracoya booth. Where we sell
Chimera
products.
We will have Chimera product, including the velvets. But we'll also have a host of products from a handful of other companies in Europe that have had some distribution challenges. And so she'll be there. The owners of those respective companies will be there. But I will be somewhat hawking items behind the booth, and then I'll also be at this little demonstration table painting stuff, so people can come and participate and ask questions and whatnot.
Sure.
Yeah, that should be fun.
Obviously, if anyone wants to get some of that stuff ahead of time, go to dracoya.com and use promo codes to get 10% off.
Yep.
Llama 10 or Hyena 10. If you really just can't wait and you're not going to be there, that's a good way to get some of those things. Everything should be available.
So
brushes and velvets and high pigment paints and all, very high quality stuff. So
yep.
But yeah, so we'll see what happens this week too. And like I said, Adepticon's coming up very quickly. I've got some ideas of what I'm going to do for my events that I'm signing up for. I got to get a lot of painting done because I'm not sure which I'm going to commit to.
I've got a lot of painting to get done because I finally have formulated a new Golden Demon project, and so I can't crank it out. I talked to some artists and got their feedback, and so I'm going to start cranking on that too. Because that's still something, I think even if I won one in the modern era or let's go crazy. Let's say I even won a sword somehow, which I don't think I will. But if I did, I still feel like that's one that I would always want to participate in. I don't feel like I would be like, oh, I've done the Golden Demon thing, I'm done. There's just something about it I love. Because even though my ideas as a painter have shifted much more artistically lately, and that's not to say Golden Demon isn't artistic, it's just very different. And I still love the Warhammer figures. I still love seeing them done up in the way that people do them. And so there's nothing like it. I still like trying to compete in it. So hopefully this project idea I have will pan out. I'm planning to record the entire process. So there may be a video that comes out in the near future that shows how that process went. Yeah, it'll be a buffet of information for people.
Sure. Speaking of buffet, I haven't eaten today. I could eat a lot.
I could eat 10% of a buffet. 10% off. Okay.
Wow. You know what? I did go to a buffet recently, and it was just kind of the worst one. I don't know if you got Pizza Ranch up there.
Not here,
or have been to a Pizza Ranch in the last, 20 years. Man, that is one of the most disappointing buffets I have ever been to.
Do you ever remember
not a sponsor?
Yeah. Do you remember going to buffets as a kid? What a cool thing it was, because it was like you were standing and just looking at counters that were at your eye level of just food, and I get to pick. I remember
was it Golden Corral when that first opened. There was one by my dad's house, and it opened up, and it was awesome. It was so good. But slowly, you know, as buffets get more expensive, their margin gets smaller and smaller. Less people start going to it. Quality starts shifting down, 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 getting worse to the point where it was like, this is all just mediocre, lukewarm garbage. It's not worth going anymore. It was so good when it started.
Yeah.
Not the case. Yeah. Buffets, interesting idea. You got to really nail the execution.
They had their time.
It's hard to do because there's so much waste.
It was like shopping malls. Like they had this era where they were the thing, you know.
Mhm.
And there's places where they still work. Like buffets at a high-end casino in Vegas are still really good. But like the average Pizza Ranch, Golden Corral, they used to have ones that were called like the Choice, or like they're just now
Mhm.
it's slop for for not that cheap. So yeah, I don't know.
Right.
But I could eat at one right now.
But I can still eat, you know, I'm still hungry. So let's do that.
Let's do that.